And there we go. Hey, we made it.
Nice.
The system works. Welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 317, your once-weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff, and I'm joined by...
Colten, Hardware Haven. Sorry, I didn't know how to say it.
I forgot to tell you I was going to prompt you. Anyway.
Oh.
Thank you all so much for joining on this Wednesday night or in podcast form over on Anchor.fm or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, sometimes some Star Trek if you couldn't tell from the border here. All super chats are read on the air so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. We do drink alcohol on the show. If you're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the chat and we'll give some early show shoutouts as we go along. Last but not least, if you'd like to take part in the super secret chat or the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon. Link is down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to my Discord server. You can chat with myself, John, Rhett, Steve, all the normal hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that hangs out over there. Colten, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Welcome.
I was planning on I had a beer ready. I was planning on hopping on and just listening along while I was running some benchmarks and stuff. So it's like, oh, cool. And now I get to
now you're on the show. Yeah. Yeah, no, I like whenever I have an opening, calling any of my Linux hardware server home lab friends that are out there and seeing if you guys want to co-host. It's nice having a different rotation of people on, just kind of mix things up a little bit. So thank you for joining, especially on kind of some short notice here.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, you said you had a beer, and you know how we like to roll over here. What are you drinking over there tonight?
So I'm drinking a Boulevard Bourbon Barrel Quad, a barrel-aged ale.
Oh.
So at what is it? Hold on.
I knew you were the right choice to bring on tonight.
12.2%, which I don't know if that's a good idea for being on a live stream, but we'll find out.
I've done heavier than that, but yeah, good luck with that one, and definitely looking forward to how that one turns out for you. I have got a couple of winter ales because, man, we are in the thick of it here in Oregon. Rhett, my normal co-host, was supposed to be on the show tonight. He lost internet about 3 or 4 hours ago, and they said, yeah, you're not going to get it back anytime soon. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll start calling around and seeing what we can do. But we've been under about 2 inches of ice since Friday. Give or take. And today we finally broke freezing for the first time since Friday. But all that did was slickened everything up even more. It melted maybe a 1/4 inch of the surface. So we got a long way to go. Even though we're supposed to be like 50 degrees tomorrow, it's still going to be a while before it's all out. But I've got a Ninkasi Slayer, one of my favorite seasonals.
Ooh, Slayer.
Yeah. Sleighr. So it's kind of nice. Dashing through the snow, but also the normal can art for this before they changed to kind of this vintage style was like a heavy metal, stylized. So it was Slayer.
I like the current one.
Yeah, I don't like this. The other ones were a lot more style. They had a lot more character.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot funnier.
Yeah.
But
so 7.2%. Like I said, one of my favorite seasonals that comes out every year. This is Ninkasi Brewing out of Eugene, Oregon.
Nice.
And of course, drinking in one of my craft pint glasses. I should get you one of these. I should send one over.
Boop.
Oh,
I got one.
Well, never mind. Have you seen the new ones? Have you seen the Matrix
I saw
ones?
I saw those on the last stream or the stream before, whichever one.
Yeah.
They look great.
These were so much fun to design. So
I feel like printing. Sorry, not to go off on a tangent immediately,
go ahead.
but I feel like printing on these. I saw like your little jig you have where it spins it or whatever,
Mhm.
so it can print on it. But
Yeah.
this is like a flat surface if you're looking at it in like a 2D sense. How do you print? Like, how does printing on that work? Or
Um,
engraving? Sorry, I guess it's not printing. My
yeah. So
bad.
so this is engraving.
Noob here.
On this one, it is a conical shape. It's a wedge shape, but if you tilt it on its axis,
Yeah.
now the top is flat. And so that's how I do this one. Is it's tilted about 7 degrees or so. So when it's rotating, that surface stays flat. My laser is a galvo laser. What that means is, normally you think of laser cutters like you think of 3D printers, where they have a gantry track, an X and a Y with a laser on a head that moves around, right? Mine is a pair of mirrors that reflect a laser and pinpoint it down very, very quickly and very accurately. So the part and the laser itself actually stay completely stationary, and all I'm doing is shining that beam down and marking the surface. For this glass, it's actually a very similar shape. It's about a 7-degree incline. So what I do is I get it as flat as possible. But just like camera lenses, you have a depth of field that you're working with, because all we're doing is we're taking a laser and we're focusing it down to a point. Depending on your lens, your focal length, all that kind of stuff, you can vary the thickness of that focal plane. And so the lens that I'm using to cut these happens to have a focal plane of about 5 millimeters. And so I've got about a half centimeter. Just enough to keep it in focus and keep that cut clean. So it's a lot of fun designing these and working out the process and whatnot. I worked as a CNC machinist for about a year and a half, and I've said many times, if I were to throw the YouTube thing away, I would go back and find a machine shop, and I would go just be a machinist again. I enjoy it that much, the creative process and problem solving and working with CNC, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm really wanting to get into 3D printing a little bit. So I've had my eyes on one of the the bamboo, like the little like small contained ones that I could fit in this little tiny room. So we'll see.
I think it's the Bamboo Labs A1. I got to see just before the review embargo. I was actually up putting in a server with Joel Telling, 3D printing nerd, and he was reviewing the A1. So actually, in his review of that, I'm his cameraman. I filmed that video for him and did all the B-roll for him. But super impressive printer and stupid cheap. $559 for a, what is it, almost a 10-inch cubed build volume. So I mean, you can print like full-size helmets on that, because no dimension of your head is over 12 inches or over about 10 inches. It also does 4-color printing. So you could load up 4 different spools of 4 different colors. $559. Like, stupid cheap.
Yeah, I feel like, because I looked at their website not too long ago, and I almost feel like that price, I think that may have been what I was looking at. I just didn't realize it hadn't released yet.
Yeah, there's one, I think it's $399 for the A1 with a single color, and then it's $559 for the 4-color model.
Gotcha. I think I was looking at one of the P ones, because I remember it had like the enclosure. So maybe I was looking before that was announced. That makes more sense.
Yeah, most of Bamboo's printers are what they call the Voron style, where the bed moves vertically and the print head stays the same. So as it's building, it's building like this. The A1 is what they call a bed slinger, where the bed actually moves forward and back. The gantry moves left and right, and then comes up as it's printing.
Gotcha.
Pros and cons to both models, but no, the A1 was super impressive, especially for the price. And like Joel said, he goes, I put the models into my slicer, I hit slice, and I hit print, and that was all I had to do. And I feel
like that's what I need.
And he got some amazing results. Like I'm into 3D printers. I've got like 3 of them now. One of them is a Prusa Mark III, and I bought it as a kit. And I think as the kit, it was still $900. It has a smaller build volume than the A1. I built the enclosure myself, and so the enclosure I've got another $150 into almost, between plexi and wood and framing and all that kind of stuff. I've also upgraded the absolute snot out of the printer itself. I've got a better hot end on it. I've got a better feeder on it. The A1 prints better quality prints than my fully kitted out, customized Prusa does.
Dang.
So, yeah. It's like, dang it, now I need to spend $500 so I can get a better printer than what I spent almost $1,500 on.
I think that's going to be... I actually have a project where my wife's mad at me because I have 2 doors just sitting in our garage that need to be painted. Because one of them is actually a like louvered door, so it has like the slats for like air to go through.
Okay, yeah.
That I need to put on my little like closet, which is like my server closet. But I had this idea to basically have that louvered door so some like airflow can happen, but at the top essentially have fans that are just kind of forcing hot air out, just to try to get some circulation. But because the slats are like angled, I was like, oh, I wish I could 3D print some like mounts to basically put some like static pressure fans, but have them like mounted at that angle with like ducting, I guess, basically, just so you'd have fans at the very top of the door just forcing hot air out.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I'll just keep pushing that off until I get a 3D printer, because I'm going to go and get one real soon, and then I'll be able to do that and make a video. It'll be great. Yeah. And then I keep putting it off, and so there's these doors in my like in the way of my wife's car in the garage, and I'm a terrible husband. So
I have so many projects. That's one thing I'm trying to get better about this year is I also have so many different video ideas, and sometimes late at night I'll think of something and I'll start piecing something together on eBay, and I'll buy this bunch of parts, and then it'll show up and I go, what in the world was I thinking? And so all of a sudden I've got like 2 random motherboards and a CPU will show up, and some aluminum enclosure thing and some other. It's like, okay, maybe I'll use these within 6 months, but I don't know, and then they'll just get stacked in the corner somewhere. So I'm trying to not do that this year.
Yeah, I've tried to be a lot better at just, if I'm not going to use it, if I know I'm not going to use it within a year, pretty much just find somebody I can give it to, or something.
Yeah. But. So speaking of, probably coming very soon to my online store, craftcomputing.store, I'm going to open up a yard sale section where I'm just going to start posting hardware and stuff that I'm getting rid of for sale. And we'll do the same, you could pay online, you can have it shipped to you. But if you ever wanted, a mini PC that you saw on the channel, I have dozens of those that have been sent out over the years. Server parts, RAM, camera gear. I'm looking at offloading some camera gear here pretty soon. So if you ever wanted something, and heck, I'll leave an autograph for you and take $10 off, because I think my autograph would ruin the value of something.
So funny story, I actually literally have a thing for like my raid members, like Patreon, YouTube member, whatever. For the $5 and $10 tiers, I have a thing called garage sales. And so my thought was like just stuff that I'm like, I'm not going to use this, but I have it, whatever. So I try to like sell it for pretty cheap. But I've literally called them like garage sales. So I actually sent 2 packages off yesterday to people. So
nice.
We'll see.
I've been considering doing like a raffle system at the end of every video. And so if you watch my video, then at the end of the video, I'll just say, hey, I have this part. Throw $1 in the pot, and at the end of the week, I'm going to pull a name out of a hat and I'll mail it to you, kind of thing. Because then I get a little bit of revenue, but you get something for $1. And I think that might be a fun way to do it too.
That's really interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Could you buy multiple tickets? Is it?
I'm sure you could. I need to figure out a way to do that. But I mean, I have a commerce site, and so there's no reason I couldn't, sell tickets online. The problem with raffles is you get into some legal issues state to state. Especially internationally. I probably couldn't offer this internationally because raffles are a form of lottery in a lot of different countries. And I'd have to black out certain states from being eligible from purchasing because local laws would prohibit it. So there'd be some hoops to jump through, but it might be a good way to number one, clear some of my inventory out, and number two, give someone a motherboard for $1 or something like that. So
be sweet.
Hashtag YouTuber problems. It
is interesting. I specifically remember watching a hardware unboxed video. I think it was like one of their Q&As a few years ago, and someone asked like, or maybe it wasn't a Q&A, but it was essentially like you have like a wall full of GPUs. No one else can even afford these things right now.
Yeah.
Like that must be amazing. And the answer was essentially something along the lines of like, at this point, like you can't, if I have a 4090 in my PC or whatever, what good's another 4090? What good's
and these are work.
It's just work at that point. And it's
and that's, I tried explaining them as work. And some people got that. When, like, I got sent the 4070 Super. That's why all these are on my desk right now. Is pretty cool. NVIDIA sent me a $600 graphics card. That's got to be awesome, man. Now you don't have to go buy one. I wasn't in the market for one, so this didn't save me $600.
Yep.
Number one. I have a 3090 in my PC. I've got a 4060 in the PC below me. I've got how many dozens of enterprise level graphics cards around here. I didn't need another graphics card. That's slower than some other graphics cards that I have. It's not technically mine. It's a permanent loan. I can't sell this. I can't give it away without their approval. It remains NVIDIA's property. They're never going to ask for it back, and I think if I gave it to someone a couple years from now, no one would bat an eye at it. But if I review this card, which, by the way, they sent it to me because they expect media coverage for it, that's how that transaction works. If I just put this card up on eBay, I would never work with NVIDIA again. They would never sample me at all, ever again. There's no monetary attachment between me and this card. It's worth $0 to me. Plus, my family got really tired of eating these.
They're delicious though, and nutritious.
Tasty chips. But when a company sends out something for review, regardless of the monetary value of it, I wasn't going to buy it. Number two, it is work. In this case, reviewing this GPU took me 46 hours of testing, then writing and scripting and compiling all your benchmark information, forming your opinion, putting it to camera, editing the video, getting it posted, having the camera gear already required to do all this production. Do you want to know how much per hour I made reviewing this free $600 graphics card? It's not good, even if you count the $600 going to me.
But a free GPU, Jeff.
I got a free GPU, right? But you know, you kind of said it very well. If I already have 30 of these, the 31st means absolutely nothing anyway, regardless. And yeah, sometimes I'll take a GPU, and if I have a use for it, I'll stick it in a system. If I didn't have this GPU, I have 29 others on the shelf like it. So it's still worthless to me. I know that's... yeah.
Even like cool stuff that I'm like, man, this is actually really awesome. Like, have you seen the Minis Forum MSO1, their little like workstation? I don't want to... I had a feeling you were going to turn around.
This one?
Yeah.
It's literally on my desk next to review.
I literally took mine from my desk out to like storage because I was like, okay, there's no way I'm filming anything else. But spoiler, my video goes up on Friday on it. It's awesome. I don't know what your thoughts. Maybe you hate it. I have a few negative things, but mostly it's like really awesome. And I was like, man, this would be really cool. This would be great for running. I currently have a little mini PC running Proxmox that just runs all of my like stuff that I constantly am like running. I don't run a ton of stuff in my home lab, but I was like, man, this would be a great replacement for that. But it's literally not, because the what I have running right now is like a 12th gen, one of the like 12th gen mobile i7s, and it's like it works great.
Very similar to me. I'm running an 11th gen Tiger Lake motherboard for my VM servers. So and
it's like, man, this would be a great replacement for that. But it's literally not, like the difference isn't worth transferring everything over. Like,
right.
So I'm like, okay, cool. This is really awesome. I love it. I can't sell it. Mostly because it's a prototype that has some one big quirk that is in the video. But so it's like, okay, I can't really sell it. I can't you really, I mean, I could use it, but I don't really have a need for it. That's not going to be, it's worth the effort of replacing something. So it's like,
Right.
well, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's really cool. I have a lot of really cool hardware around here. Some of the companies I've talked to, they don't mind you selling the stuff because like a lot of the mini PCs that we get sent, or even some of the handhelds that I get sent, I've talked to them and they say, yeah, once you're done with it, once your coverage is done, you're welcome to hang on to it, give it to a friend, sell it, whatever. We got our transactions worth out of it, and you're probably not going to do, 8 more months worth of content with it. So why?
Yeah. And there's a really good chance I am going to throw that MSO1 up on my like garage sale things at some point. Once I know for sure I don't need to like test anything. But for probably a few months, it's just going to sit on a shelf, which is So no, it's a weird business to be in. But at the end of the day, this is just their widgets. They're backstock. They're products that were sent for our coverage, but don't actually belong to us 90% of the time. And even if something is dope as hell, it doesn't mean I have a use for it. Yeah, that's fortunately like there's a lot of the things we've just talked about is the reason why I've pretty much decided to never branch out into like GPU reviews or anything. Just because of the nature of it, and you mentioned the 46 hours of benchmarking, and it's a lot. And so
luckily I was snowed in, so there was really nothing else to go to. But it was a grind. It was literally 3 straight days of sitting at my computer. And then a 4th day sitting there compiling and writing and everything else. And I had my video script written on Monday at like 3:00. And the embargo date I think was 6 a.m. on Tuesday. And so I had this period of like 15 hours where it's like, all right, I know I went to bed at like midnight last night, but if I just flip this script around and turn on my camera, I could probably film this and then compile. And then, oh, by the way, you have to make all of your benchmarks readable in graphic form and overlay it with screen capture. And, so there's like work on the editing side to do too. It's like, man, if I just put the script on the teleprompter, hit record, I could probably knock this thing out. And then it's probably going to be a 3 to 4 hour edit just because of how long it is. It was a 30-minute video. Maybe I could turn it around, get it done by the embargo date, and then work on whatever else tomorrow. It's like, I'm not going to work on anything else tomorrow if I pull a midnight, run again here starting at 3:00 to turn that around.
Yeah.
And let's say I wake up in the morning, I'll film it at like 8:00. I could have it done by 2. You know what I did? I woke up at 7:00. I was in my office at 8:00. I hit record. I hit render on my PC at 1:59. I am that good with my estimation in how long it was going to take me. I was 60 seconds off of how long it would take me if I started at a certain time. So, yes.
That's one thing I've never had to deal with an embargo, and I'm pretty okay with that.
Yeah. And GPUs are one of the most labor-intensive things that I have to deal with. They truly are. I mean, I talked about this a little bit. I was actually on the PC World podcast with Adam Patrick Murray earlier today, and we were talking about GPU reviews and things like that. And I get questions all the time about, well, why didn't you test this game? Or I wish you would have tested this setting. Or why didn't you look at this graphics card too? And it's because, well, I tested 8 games at 2 different resolutions, 5 of which had ray tracing. So that is 13 individual runs at 2 resolutions. That's 26 individual results that I need to tabulate. Each test for each graphics card, so times 6 graphics cards, needs to be ran 3 times so I can normalize the data and make sure I don't have any garbage anomalies. Because sometimes when you're testing, you'll just get you'll get a 1 second frame drop and you don't know why. And
Yep.
you need to watch for that. And doing 3 or more tests, helps normalize that. Well, if a single benchmark run takes 5 minutes, and that's being pretty generous as far as how quickly I can do it if I'm sitting there and I'm on top of it. If a single benchmark run of a single game at a single resolution with a single graphics card takes 5 minutes, and you've got to do 13 times 2 times 5 times... It was 624 data points. Just data points. Times 3 runs each.
Yeah.
It is exponential in how long that took. And it is mind-numbing. It's mind-numbing work because you're playing the same level of Doom, the same mission in Red Dead Redemption, the same sequence in Cyberpunk. You're clearing the same base in Starfield 100 times. And then you do it again, and then you do it again. And then you make sure your numbers are correct. And then when you go to swap graphics cards, you hope that all of your numbers are correct and you validated everything properly, because now you need to do a DDU, wipe your graphics driver, wipe any traces of the existing graphics driver and graphics card off of there, shut down your system, swap out the card, install the new driver for the new card that you just loaded in, and then go back into your games and redo all of your settings, because most games will try to auto-set your settings when you first boot up the game with a new card. And so you need to make sure, go through line by line on everything, making sure your settings match, and making sure in between tests it doesn't change on you, like Hogwarts, or Red Dead Redemption, or Grand Theft Auto 5, or any other dozen games that like to, on a reboot, go, oh, I'm just going to tweak that one for you. There you go.
Yeah.
That should be better for you now, right?
You're just really confirming my decision to never get into GPUs.
Yeah.
I did like one sort of like,
only to be told by the YouTube comments that you're doing it wrong, no matter what you do.
Why didn't you do this? Oh yeah. For some reason, I think I like switched accounts, or I don't know. I rarely actually use the Hardware Haven account for like YouTube, and for some reason your was it the 4060 review? The one with popped back up, and I just chuckled because good times. I remember that whole debacle. It was fun.
What's really funny, it's funny that you mentioned that, because in that video, I stated that not every graphics card should be purchased just from a drag race. Like when I'm buying a car, the quarter mile time is the last of my considerations. There's a dozen other things that I need to check first before I go, oh, it's 390 horsepower and does a 13-second, quarter mile. Why is that the only criteria that we've decided we judge graphics cards on? Especially when that's not how they're going to be used. No one buys a 4060 and then loads it up at 4K ultra settings to crank through 7 frames per second on Cyberpunk. It's not how the card's going to be used, so why is that a valid test? I know it told you where it's at in the pecking order as far as overall power, but that's not a review. That's a statistical analysis. But what's funny is my argument was it's not realistic. No one would ever pair a 14900K with a 4060, so why are we testing it like that? Let's test graphics cards where they actually live.
Yeah.
Well, in this one, because it is a $600 graphics card, I tested it with a 7900 X3D, which is a $500 CPU. It was a $350 motherboard. It was, $200 worth of memory. It was a 2 terabyte Gen 4 NVMe storage drive. It was an 1100 watt power supply. It's a system that this would realistically live in. And one of the comments I got is, no one would use that CPU with that graphics card. Why did you test that?
You really can't win. You can't win.
So, yep, best you can do is there's more than one way to form an opinion around products. And I grew up in the era where I was reading Maximum PC and PC Magazine and gaming magazines and things like that. And they weren't these long drawn out statistical analyses of the cards. They weren't drag racing them to find out the pecking order of 6 different generations of cards. While that is useful information, does that necessarily help a customer, a potential buyer, someone who's in the market for a graphics card, make a buying decision that is right for them?
And that's where I do think the not to rehash the whole argument that happened. I do think for someone like me watching a gamer's Nexus or Hardware Unbox thing, that is probably the information I'll actually go to, because I have context. I have an understanding of, okay, well, they tested this with a 14900 whatever. Like, I have context, so I can sort of evaluate, and I can use that information in a calculation. But I think a lot of the, back in the was the 4060, right?
4060, yeah.
I think it was more so, which I come across this a lot. I just did a Minecraft server tutorial thing. Sorry to get way off topic, but the amount of people that were like, why didn't you use Ventoy? Because like, okay, well, I don't want to explain Ventoy to someone who's like never touched a BIOS before. Like, they're just wanting to set up a Minecraft server. Like, they don't need to know what Ventoy is. Like, I accidentally hit the wrong boot key, and so instead of going, I was like, we're gonna go to the BIOS here, and I hit like F9 instead of F10, and so it went to like the boot menu.
One of the Easter eggs on my Matrix code is, what's a Ventoy?
And nice. But like, yeah, I had someone was like, why? Well, if you're just trying to boot from the USB, why not do it from the boot menu? Why did you go from the boot menu to the BIOS? And I was like, because this is a tutorial for people that A, may have no idea what any of that is, and B, maybe installing this on hardware that doesn't have a boot menu option. Like,
right.
It's
99% of the time, delete gets you to BIOS. 40% of the time, F10 gets you to a boot menu, and it's hedging your bets on what the user experience is going to be.
And then unless you're using a Dell Optiplex 5055, like what's over here, which the only option is F2, and there's no boot menu. So
right. It's like, or sometimes it's F6, or sometimes it's F11, or sometimes it's F12, even though F12 should be Pixie Boot, but sometimes it's boot menu select. You just don't know.
But the point is, it's you have to know your audience and who you're talking to, and I feel like where a lot of the pushback you get in the PC world is someone who's like, yeah, I'm going to look at what Hardware Unbox said because I understand the context. I understand these things they're saying, the nuance. But for people who like don't live in that world, that are like, man, I just want to hop on and play some Fortnite. Yeah. At goods, and it look good and feel good.
Right. And my main argument was, number one, what they do is 100% technically correct and extremely valuable. What my argument was is it may not give enough information to someone who's looking to make a purchase specifically for lower end hardware, specifically for cards like the 4060, which is why I kind of chose that graphics card to make that style review video. Because I actually had Steve on, and we had an hour-long conversation about this after this whole thing happened. And he was telling me that I was wrong in my approach and that his way was right. And I said, well, yeah, your way is right. But if I, as a potential graphics card buyer, were to go to one of your videos, and let's say I wanted to play Starfield, and I had a 1440p monitor, and I want to hit 90 frames per second, which graphics card does that? Because according to your charts, the only one that'll do that is the 4080. But let's say I play at medium settings. You can get Starfield to run at 140 FPS on a 4060 if you turn the settings down. And depending on what... Your results don't work the other way. From someone who's looking for a solution and looking for a product to buy. You're presenting, this is the only answer because we only test at max settings. And
I feel like, if I remember correctly, I feel like something like this almost got brought up. Which was, I almost feel like their review is too broad of a term. I feel like we're just totally rehashing a completely old thing.
Right, totally.
Review is a very broad term. And I almost feel like there's different types of reviews, like more analytic reviews, and then like more of like a buyer's guide type review of what to actually expect if you're, which I feel like it's good to have both. And a lot of people that are deep in the tech space, that seems to be like a common thread I see. It's just not understanding that not everyone's there.
Right. And when I hear review, what immediately jumps to my mind is opinion. What I am doing is I am analyzing cards, analyzing PC parts, forming an opinion, and letting you know what my opinion is. That's what a review is. It doesn't have to be done the same way by every person. If it was, we'd all form the same opinion at the end. And that's why we as reviewers often say, hey, this is what I thought of this particular thing, but make sure you go watch other reviews to get all of the different points of view. But if we're all testing the same way, and we all get the same results, and all of our results are going to be compared against one another, wouldn't our opinions basically be the same? And so we need different testing methodologies out there, and we need people who can bring a little nuance. In my 4070 Super review, I tested it against a couple of previous generation flagships in the 2080 Ti and the 1080 Ti. And while those two graphics cards by themselves, the 2080 and the 1080 Ti, were only about 15% apart when they were released, the Pascal-based GPU in the 1080 Ti does not hold up because of numerous different factors. It fell flat on its face in a number of things, even flat out getting doubled up by the 2080 Ti, which was not the result when those cards were reviewed when they were new. Also, the 2080 Ti, if you have a 60 hertz monitor still, a 60 hertz 1440p monitor, my average result out of the 8 games tested was 80 frames per second with a low of, I think, 48 or something like that, which means even at ultra settings at 1440p, you're going to be fine. You're going to be happy with your level of performance because you are maxing out the bottleneck in your system, which is your monitor at that case. If you want 144, you either need to tweak your settings or maybe look at a replacement graphics card. But if you don't want to buy anything, you don't have to, because that card still holds up. Yeah. And that's the nuance that I wanted. And that's the nuance that it seems no one brings, is taking everything into account and thinking of where a customer or a viewer may be in their life, thinking about hardware that might be implemented, thinking about parts that might be put together, and forming opinions based on that.
Weird. People can't put themselves in other people's shoes or understand. It's weird. I don't get it.
Yeah.
You'd think that's just so,
Mm-hmm.
That's how people are, right?
But no, I was supposed to think, and this has happened twice now, that I've come, head to head with hive mind mentality about. One of them was the GTX 1650 when I reviewed it. GTX 1650 is 60% faster at nearly the same price as the 1050 Ti when it was released. It's the replacement for the 1050 Ti. It's a great 1080p graphics card, or at least it was when it was released. Yeah. And I said, if you buy one at retail price, it's a great deal. Don't spend $20 over, though. Like, don't buy a partner card. I think the retail price was supposed to be like $170. And I said, if you spend $200, you're getting screwed. But at $170, it's probably a great option. And I got lambasted by that because I was supposed to hate that card because it didn't present a big enough gap over the previous generation card. And there was a $220 card that was sitting right above it that everyone goes, oh, just spend that one instead. $50 is a third of your purchase price at that point. Like, that's a lot of money to some people who might be buying that graphics card.
Yeah, just spend more is always the answer.
Just spend more, and you'll get a better value. And it's the same thing with even the high-end graphics cards. If all you're trying to figure out is if I spend X amount of money, I'm going to get X amount of frames out of that. And you based your valuation entirely on that, people would have said this generation, well, buy the 4070 Ti because it's the best value card that you can get. It's $800.
Yeah.
I have 4060 money. Will the 4060 play my games? According to other reviewers, no, it wouldn't. It averages 20 frames per second at 4K at max settings, and that's just not acceptable.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into that, especially with I had a weird moment. I haven't really been in I think the last new. Okay, never mind. I bought a new motherboard because I found a 3950X used for really cheap, and it was great. Nice. And then I needed a new motherboard. Mm-hmm. And so other than that, I haven't bought new PC components, I don't think, since like 2017, and not including like SSDs or something like that, but like motherboard, GPU, just because I've always been like a secondhand kind of person. I built when the first generation Ryzen came out. I like built my first PC, and that was awesome. I built like my first like,
new PC. Yeah.
That was like a cool experience, but I haven't really bought anything new since then. But I've had like the GPU bug a little bit recently, and then the super cards came out, and there was a part of me that's like, I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking NVIDIA's Kool-Aid here, thinking that the what is it, $600 4070 Super is like a good value, because I've just been kind of trained. I've been trained that like, okay, with how they're segmenting their products and everything, I've just come to understand, oh, this is a good value, but like, no, they're screwing me over. But then I look at it and I'm like, man, if it is that similar to a 3090, I have a 1440p monitor. I'm not going to be doing any 4K. Buying a 3090 right now is still around like 900 to 1,000, I think, roughly somewhere around there.
They've fallen a little bit, maybe more the $700 mark.
Oh wow, cool.
A used 3090 is still more expensive than this card, and the 3090 does have some things going for it. It's got 24 gigs of VRAM, and for someone like you who's going to do video editing on it, especially if you make your move to ProRes, ProRes eats memory for breakfast in VRAM. It's why I had to buy a 3090. Yeah. I had to buy a 3090 at scalper pricing because I decided to upgrade all my camera gear and sell my camera in the same week. And then I got this new camera and was recording in ProRes and then couldn't edit my footage. Because my graphics card was running out of memory. I was like, oh, that's a problem. So like, okay, well, I need 24 gigs of video memory. $2,600 it is for a used 3090.
Jeez. That's
what I spent on that graphics card. So tell me again how lucky I am to get a free $600 4070 Super. There's upsides and downsides with buying used hardware, and I mean, like you, I've always bought used hardware. I have always been a deal hunter, surfing eBay and Craigslist and Marketplace and anywhere else. You know, friend of a friend, back alley deal. I've bought so many sketchy things from parking lots. It's not even funny. But there's downsides with used 3090s. 3090s, especially the Founders Edition cards, some of them have a propensity to blow out the VRMs on the backside of the PCB because they get too hot. There's not enough cooling on the backside of the PCB. You can offset this by applying a thermal pad to the back of that, but you do need to disassemble the graphics card. It's not for the faint of heart. It is not an easy cooler to take apart. I did that on my card. But you also need some airflow over the top of it to make it viable, and so you need to figure out your case airflow, and it's like that's a lot to ask. And who's to say your used card hasn't already degraded slightly as far as VRMs because of temperatures, because of its previous owner for the last 2.5 years? Maybe it was bit mining for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah. Maybe
longevity is going to be an issue, and if you buy used, you're buying without warranty, so it might be a better deal. Some people don't want to take the risk, and so,
I think for me, as from like I'm going to play games or like do stuff, I'm like, yeah, buy used, it's great.
Yeah.
As now YouTube has become my full-time job, I think that was a big difference in my decision making. I was like, oh, I could buy like a 3090 used or something, and I was like, but man, if I get screwed over on that deal, you know, if I buy that and then I, you know, sell or give my 3060 12 gig right now to somebody else, and all of a sudden that 3090 craps out because it was having some, you know, VRM issues that the eBay seller didn't mention.
Yeah,
that downtime is not good.
No.
And there's a possibility with a new card, but with a new card, at least, you know, RMA might be a little bit
right. You've got a safety net with a new card.
So that kind of changed it. And then also I think the biggest thing with like the 4070 Super was just the heat. Like seeing some people with sub 400 watt total system usage running, you know,
this was drawing 220 watts,
which is basically what I saw.
My total system usage would have been below 400 with this graphics card. I didn't measure it. I didn't want to get into that fine detail of a review. I simply wanted to demonstrate, hey, if you have some previous generation flagships and you've been looking for the upgrade opportunity, maybe this is it for you.
Because I'm in a little tiny room that I even have the window cracked right now. Like my neighbors can totally hear when I'm recording stuff if they really want to, just because it gets kind of hot in here because it's a little room and I have a 3950X,
yeah.
So I'm like, man, I really don't want to throw a 3090 in here and add to the problem even more.
I've got a 5950X with a 46. I think it's a 4060 here at my feet. The other side of the room, my editing rig, is the 13900K and 3090. And boy, that'll make the lights dim when it's going.
She gets toasty.
Yeah,
sure. But yeah, so it's weird. That's the first time in a long time I've seen any sort of like GPU CPU release and been like, I'm actually like intrigued.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And what's funny is it's
maybe
only
I've just drank the Kool-Aid. I don't know.
It's only 15% better than the 4070 that came before it. It's only 15%. But that was enough to flip the entire script. Did you see a single thumbnail of the card sitting in a dumpster on fire? Did you see the YouTuber shocked face? 15%. It's 100 FPS versus 115 FPS, and that was the crux of them going, this is actually a really good value now.
It wasn't the 4070 an 8 gig card?
12 gig.
Oh, it was 12 gig? Okay.
Yeah, 4070 is 12 gig. Same memory bus. This one has more CUDA cores. That's
okay.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the difference between this and the previous gen. This has 20% more CUDA cores. It's about 15% faster than the 4070.
Gotcha.
But that was the this didn't even get a price drop. This is still $599. It's the same price as the 4070. There's no hate towards this one. That's how thin the line has been. And also why I kind of take issue with some of the reviews and some of the processes and how they're being benchmarked.
I think I thought you were about to say take issue with the constant like, oh, everything's trash, everything's terrible, which I was about to say.
I didn't mention any names.
This is sort of proof that, because I think I skimmed your review a little bit, and then I skimmed a couple other reviews. I don't think I really watched. I think I may have listened to Hardware Unboxed review. DMI. I listened to their review while I was in the shower, but
gotta get your info in however you can.
Yeah, but I feel like I didn't. What I saw was pretty positive sentiment across reviewers, or at least positive in the sense of it wasn't negative.
Right.
Which I feel like is mostly what you can get from people, which I get it. Like I'm not like a fan of Nvidia. I think there's nothing positive I have to say really about Nvidia as a corporation.
Right.
But I think at the same time no one wants to just hear the constant like everything sucks, everything's terrible, because at some point someone just wants to buy a graphics card. And that was kind of, not to beat a dead horse, but that was also one of the things that I mentioned in my 4060 review, is that if everything sucks, maybe you're the problem. If the review if the performance landscape has changed, and you haven't adjusted your opinion with that new performance landscape, maybe you have the wrong opinion. Especially on the low end. Like, you can hate Nvidia for inflating the price of graphics cards. You can hate them for only focusing on enterprise and selling H100s and giving us the cast-off, binned-down models all you want. Last I checked, Nvidia's a company, and their goal is to make money by selling products. They're not running a charity. They don't care about you. They don't care about gaming. Gaming is a write-off at the end of the year. We're lucky they're producing graphics cards at all. Which honestly, like, I was shocked that I was kind of in the mindset of okay, Nvidia's full AI. They're just going to keep their game, the RTX GeForce, that's what I was trying to say. They're going to kind of keep that alive just in case, AI crashes or something, and then come, hey, gamers, here's some cards.
Hey, remember us?
Which I had like a weird thought. I was like, man, because I was not expecting anything even competitive. Why do they don't need to be competitive.
Right.
Like they could have easily said, yep, 5 or 649 for the super card, because it's a super card and not a 4070. So I was like, man, they're actually like trying to be somewhat.
We
I was like,
we
I
got
wonder if there's
we got more
any,
performance for the same price inside the same generation. And in fact,
which has
today
not really
today
happened.
right, and today AMD dropped the price of the 7900 XT down to $750 for one of their top flight cards. It was previously 900. They knocked $150 off of it to be more competitive within Nvidia's lineup.
Yeah.
Competition makes everyone win.
But it did kind of give me the weird thought of, like, I know AI is booming and there's probably no reason to think anything, but I'm like, man, I wonder if there's anything that gave any sort of executives a sense of like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be just 100% all in. Maybe we should keep some options open in case all of a sudden every startup's not trying to just buy every single GPU they can get their hands on.
Right.
I'm like, I wonder if there was something that gave some sort of inkling of like, maybe we should.
But here's the other side of this equation is AMD is not doing anything that Nvidia isn't doing. AMD just launched their A300, their enterprise, bespoke graphics card that doesn't do any kind of rasterization. It's built on GPU cores, but it's not compatible with DirectX, Vulkan, etc. It won't play games. They're looking at selling billions of dollars worth of those cards this year. Radeon is kind of a write-off for them at this point. Intel is the only one that I think is looking at getting into the market and actually selling graphics cards to gamers. They're looking for that. From what I hear, they're trying to sweep in and take the low-level graphics market that hasn't existed in the gaming segment, which is that $200 to $500 market for quite a long time. I think they're going to try to sweep in and take that. And I think their second generation might just do it. But the thing is, Intel's doing the same thing on their CPU line. They're selling Emerald Rapids CPUs by the truckful to enterprise and server farms and everything like that. And mind you, those are $12,000 SKUs that they're selling by the truckful. They don't give a crap if they sell i7s.
Yeah.
They could not care less. We're the afterthought. We're not important to them. And if competition starts breeding down here, starts breeding again, like it has with AMD and Intel, have you noticed that the prices went up to like $750 and they went, oh crap, we need to start actually competing with each other again, and they've been driven back down. So now the 14th generation and 7000 series Ryzen, instead of their top tier SKUs coming out at $750, they're at like $600, $620 right now. That's because there was so much competition up top. The other SKUs have fallen through the floor as well. I mean, AMD's coming out with, what is it, the 5700 X3D for like $250. That is like one of the top end gaming SKUs right now. Yeah. Competition means everyone wins. You get a better price as a consumer. It drives the prices down on the selling side of things, but it drives volumes up, which means enterprise wins too, or corporations win too. So I don't like any of these companies. I'm not a fan of anyone. I'm a fan of hardware. I'm a fan of what we can do with it, whether it's gaming or home lab or anything else. And all I want is some decent products. But I also have to understand there's some things in place that make that difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I feel like I really derailed this stream. Sorry.
That's fine. Tell you what, let's go ahead and get to a couple of the stories since we've got them up. We've got 281 viewers in stream right now. Heck yes. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining. Anyway, boy. Both of these kind of go hand in hand, and that's why I put them both in the title. So we've got Ubisoft CEO says, get used to not owning your games. And we've got Broadcom, new owners of VMware, saying, basically just bend over and take whatever we're going to give you. It's kind of been their message over the last month. I think we'll start with VMware. So it has been one press release after another. Basically, each week they are kicking you more, or showing you less and less respect as a customer, as an organization, as a partner, as whatever else. They've done away with their partner resale programs. They've done away with perpetual licensing. You can't buy VMware and just run VMware now. You're going to have to buy a subscription to VMware. Oh, and the people you bought VMware through, they can't sell you VMware anymore because Broadcom decided instead of 90% of that profit, they wanted 100% of that profit. So they're cutting all partners out of their equations.
Really quick, is our previous perpetual license honored?
Yes, because they can't take those away retroactively.
Yeah.
That would... Oh, the lawsuits would fly. And there's no real like authentication system for that, I believe.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they're not going to sell them anymore. The newest thing from Broadcom's $61 billion with a B dollar acquisition of VMware late last year is that they are going to be doing away with cloud service provider licenses. So, if you host virtual machines in a VMware ESXi environment and you sell server space, you can't do that anymore. Your licensing no longer allows that usage. It is for internal use of your organization only. Cloud service providers have, I believe, until like April to make a change. Look,
Which I feel like that's like in the like enterprise world, that's like next week.
That's yesterday.
That's like no time at all.
that is the date might as well have already passed. And remember, these are service providers that are selling space to their customers. So it's not only VMware screwing over people who bought their software, it's screwing over the customer of their customers as well. Simply because Broadcom wants the entire bag, not just 90% of it. Kind of sums up our economy right now, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. But effective April 30th of 2024, the ability to transact as VMware Cloud Services Provider under VMware Partner Connect program will come to an end. However, we want to emphasize that you may have an opportunity to join Broadcom Expert Advantage Partner Program. This invite-only program, which means if you have billion-dollar contracts with us, we'll honor them, but even then you're going to be lucky to get in, has simpler requirements and offers expanded benefits. And we will begin inviting partners to join in early 2024. I guarantee...
technically having billions of dollars is simpler.
Yeah, just give us more money and you can stay on. Basically, if you haven't already received an email saying that your contract is going to be honored, your contract's not going to be honored. And like I said, this is just the latest in a very long string from Broadcom basically saying, we don't care about our customers, give us more money. It's really interesting, though, to look at how financial sites and investment sites, by the way, I'm not an accountant, I'm not your accountant, this is not financial advice, I'm simply reading a story on the internet, which you could do the same. It's really interesting to see how some of the financial markets are reacting to Broadcom's news, because they're kind of spinning it in the same way that a lot of major corporations like to spin mergers. Oh, we're going to merge all of our 4 companies together, and don't worry, you'll have lower prices in the end because it's a simpler supply chain, and we're going to own everything, end to end, and we can pass that savings on to our customers. No, we're just going to take that savings and pocket it. And then when prices rise, we'll go, oh, unexpected costs and, unions and all that kind of stuff. According to NPI Financial, aggressive changes to licensing starting with the end of perpetual licenses. Customers have long lamented the complexity of VMware's offerings and SKUs. VMware by Broadcom has seized the opportunity to simplify the VMware portfolio by eliminating the sale of perpetual licenses. They are doing you a favor here and making your purchase decision to give VMware billions of dollars that much easier by allowing you to keep paying VMware billions of dollars instead of just one time giving them billions of dollars.
I love how it's always reworded as, "Oh, we're making this easier, more comfortable," as we'll see in the next topic. But
Yeah.
uh,
Don't worry,
I love
the
how it's
consumer
always
will win here.
morphed into, "This is for the consumer." I'm curious. I don't really know. I use Proxmox. That's the only thing I really know.
Yeah.
I've never messed with VMware. I've never messed with any of the other like bigger hypervisors and that sort of thing out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how locked in are some of these? Maybe not the providers, but the customers who are using like is
Very,
very locked in. Like there's not
very. If you're a mom and pop shop, if you're a home labber, if you're a small medium sized business, if you've got one rack of servers, you could migrate. It might be painful. It might be a couple of long nights. There's going to be some quality of life things that you give up from VMware, especially if you have monitoring services or enterprise support plans or things like that for your stack. But you could move your virtualization onto another platform in some method. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be clean. It's certainly not going to be easy, but you could do it. In enterprise, when we're talking data center level, global rollouts, it's nigh on impossible. Because it's not only the process of moving your VMs, which may or may not be compatible as they sit onto another platform. You may have to build your VMs on a new platform and then migrate your data, which is also a whole other thing entirely. You've then got to, let's say you have redundancies across the globe. You've got 7 global data centers that are all hosting, website data. You're hosting, application servers, databases, whatever else. That replication right now happens inside of VMware. It's kept in sync by VMware. That sync system is going to be wildly different on a new platform. You have scores of IT techs and service managers and programmers and IT staff that have been trained in procedures and operations and troubleshooting of your VMware Enterprise service. That entire process goes out the window as far as your implementation, your production, your troubleshooting, your endpoint customer, your sales to customers as far as server space, your leasing of server space to customers. All of that is 100% in the other direction because you've not done that before with a different software. It's not something you spin up in 3 years and do a clean pull the Band-Aid off. It's a migration of that scale is you let the servers you're running die. And when you buy new servers, you migrate your services onto the new servers.
Yeah, which I mean, at that point, I'm assuming you're needing either retraining of mentioning like staff and that sort of thing. You're either retraining, rehiring. So, I mean, because I feel like migration is pretty much out that's not really an option for
the VMs
scale.
are the least of your worries. It's the operational and infrastructural costs that are associated with migrating all of that over to another platform. It's insurmountable, and it's certainly not going to happen between January 17th and April 30th. We're talking, half-decade transitions for a lot of these organizations, because in this scale of a migration, you would spin up a new data center and start getting your services running on there. You would interface with your old systems while they were up and running, but then as those go offline, you let them go offline and you spin up new ones in their place with the new system. Yeah. There's no such thing as a global migration. If you're data center scale customers, exascale customers, this is crippling. There's no other way to say it.
Yep. I'm curious. The other two, I feel like I'm coming at this from like someone who has no idea because I don't have any idea.
Now, to be clear, I never worked data center exascale. My specialty is small medium business. I did a lot of Proxmox, I did a lot of KVM, a lot of CentOS, and a lot of Hyper-V. A lot of Hyper-V, especially in government, K-12, that kind of thing. Gotcha. And so, the most I ever had to do was sync like 4 sites within the same state. Like that's kind of my scale of things.
I was about to say, like, from Broadcom's perspective, are you not just kind of, let's say you lock in all of your current customers because it's just not worth it, and so they're just forced to pay you the money, but are you not just sort of killing off any sort of, acquiring new customers? Like, I don't know. But then I'm like, are there really any new customers when you're talking that scale? I don't know.
You're not really talking new customers. You're talking growth of existing customers, and there's not necessarily finite data as far as the industry split. But I will say VMware is by far the leader as far as saturation in the market goes. There are some estimates for between 40 and 55% of the virtualization market VMware owns. Most of that in enterprise. If you walk into a mom and pop shop, if you're contracted to go, work at a real estate office or government or medium-sized business or something like that, you're likely to find Hyper-V or some other solution like that. If they're even running virtualization, they may be just running a couple of Windows boxes and calling it a day. And then maybe a TrueNAS, box for their storage appliance or something like that. So I don't think this is going to affect a lot of super small customers. This isn't going to affect... Well, I was about to say government, but no, it's going to affect government because even, statewide organizations use VMware. And so it's not going to affect real estate offices and doctors' offices and small clinics and things like that. But anything of any somewhat larger scale, this is a big deal.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah.
Well,
OpenStack, XCP-ng, etc. will gladly take your money. XCP-ng is an open source implementation of Zen. Zen Orchestra works very well. I know XCP-ng at some variant has, I believe, upwards of like 15 to 20% of the market. Microsoft is also in that 15%-ish equation, and then KVM and all the others kind of fight over the scraps. But I will say KVM is also kind of up and coming, and that's what runs Proxmox.
Good old Proxmox.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, before we move into the Ubisoft story and talk about that disaster over there, how's your beer treating you?
It's good. It's a little bit lame. This was a 4-pack, so this is actually the 4th of 4. So I already knew what to expect.
Okay.
But yeah, it's great. I'm a big fan of like barrel aged like stouts. Is like that's my favorite, especially like wintertime. Oh, it makes me happy. So being like an ale, it's a little bit of like a almost like tanginess to it, a little bit of hops as well.
A little thinner, little more of a bite right on top. Kind of, yeah. Yeah,
but it's good. It's good. It has a little bit still of that kind of like, I don't know, I'm not a beer like enthusiast, but like kind of the heaviness of like the kind of like barrel aged.
But barrel aging often imparts, I think heaviness is a great word for it, but a little bit more rounded body, towards the middle and rear of the flavor. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Being an ale, it is going to be, I think, thinner is probably the most apt word. It'll be a little thin up front, but then it'll kind of round itself out.
Yep.
So,
but it's great. I've had we have a liquor store that's like right next to our neighborhood. It's like really easy to get to, and every now and then they'll have some good options, but for the most part they just kind of have their little like aisle of beer they have in their regular rotation. Nice. And so I'll try to pick up things if they have some fun options that come in. I'll pick those up, but this is kind of there's a few from especially Boulevard's like a local brewery, so so it's kind of nice I'll pick up some of those. But if I really want something nice, I kind of have to drive out of the way quite a while, because where I live, it's mostly Miller Lights and
yeah.
It's not a whole lot of options. How's yours doing?
Mine is great. In fact, it's about there. So I just opened my second one. This is from Hopworks Urban Brewery up in Portland, Oregon. So the first one was from an hour south of me. This one's from an hour north of me. It is the Abominable Winter Ale. So it's my second winter ale of the night. This is another seasonal that comes out about this time. Another fantastic, well-rounded 7.5%. Um, I like these two winter ales, the Ninkasi and the Hopworks, because a lot of times people try to associate winter with like Christmas flavors, and so you'll get like nutmeg and allspice and cinnamon and things like that. I just like a nice meaty dark beer for my winter ale, and so it's not the darkest of beers. I mean, it's certainly not see-through, but they are fantastically well-bodied. Very, very malty. Little, very, very malty with just like a touch of like blood orange on top of it is what this one is.
Nice.
So
I need to correct something. I said local. That wasn't really accurate because Boulevard's in Kansas City, right? So
local.
I realized as soon as I said it, I was like, that's not really true. So
they don't know where you're
it's
at.
close. It's within like 6 hours of me. So yeah. I feel like that's local. Cool.
I love whenever I talk to Europeans. So until this last summer, I had never left the country. And I have a bunch of friends in Europe, and they're like, how have you never left your country? Like we'll go to France on holiday, and we've been here, and I went up to Norway one time on just for the lulls and whatnot. And I said, okay, well, tell you what, how far is it for you to drive from the southern tip of like Great Britain to the northern tip? And they're like, oh, it's like 3.5 hours. And I'm like, cool. I can drive 9 hours and not leave my state.
Yeah, essentially, states are like, it's the equivalent of countries in the EU.
Yeah.
So, yep. Wait, so you had never been to Canada before?
I had never been to Canada. Nope.
And you're that, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm 6 hours from the Canadian border. So I mean, I'm close, but I've never had a reason to cross the border. I have to drive through Seattle to get to Vancouver. So why not just stop in Seattle? Was kind of always my theory.
I guess here in Oklahoma, I'm 6 hours away from anything interesting. So
yeah,
it's like if I was that close to Vancouver, I'd be there a lot.
I'm 2 hours away from anything that I want to do. And what I mean by that is within 2 hours. I'm 2 hours from Bend, which is a fantastic ski town, breweries, eateries, high desert, lava tubes, ATVs, mountain climbing. They have everything over there. I'm an hour and a half maybe from Mount Hood. World-renowned ski resorts, lodges, hiking, all kinds of stuff. I'm 60 minutes from the Oregon coast. I'm an hour from Portland. Like, where do I need to go?
Must be nice.
It is.
Jeff
went to Halifax. That's right.
Nice. I may while you read the next story, I may go hit the little boy's room. So
yeah, please. I will kind of intro this. So yeah, hop on out. So we talked a little bit about VMware and their stance and what they think of their customers and their money, and please separate one from the other. And you know what? We don't even need the customers. Just keep paying us money. So Ubisoft has a bold statement, and that is get used to not owning your games. Gamers better start getting comfortable with not owning anything. You know what? Instead of buying a AAA game from us once a year at $60, tell you what, we'll give you our entire catalog at $18 a month. That way you can give us, gosh, what is that? 12 times 18, like $300 a year instead. That sounds like a great deal, doesn't it? Yeah. So Ubisoft's big new subscription service features all new releases such as Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which is only available to subscribers, is $17.99, and you can play it on Xbox or PC, or you can stream it from Amazon Luna. the up-and-coming Stadia clone that will probably be shutting their doors within 6 months. They're also adding Ubisoft Plus Classics on PC. Classic option was already available to PlayStation players via Sony's own sub-offerings and featuring back catalogs of games like Far Cry 6 and Rainbow Six Siege for just $8 a month. Or, you could buy those games for $8 on a Steam sale instead of giving Ubisoft $8 a month perpetually. We've talked quite a few times on the channel, on this show in particular, about how everything has to have a subscription service now. And look, I get it from a company standpoint. Ubisoft's not in this for a charity. They don't make games for the fun of it. They create products to sell. And the best way to make money is to turn your one-time customers into repeat customers. And the best way to do that is to make sure your repeat customers never leave. So, subscriptions. $18 a month for Ubisoft Plus Premium, $8 a month for Ubisoft Plus. Look, there's going to be some that take advantage of this. There's going to be some that go, that's just a great deal. The problem is, I think like a lot of streaming services, they're going to find out very quickly. It costs a lot of money to just sell your own product. Like, what are the profitable streaming services that are out there? There's not many, because they all claim to be hemorrhaging money. I think Disney Plus is profitable. Netflix is profitable. YouTube is profitable. And Hulu is always kind of on that cusp, but I think that's because they're a write-off for Comcast NBC. So...
Is Disney Plus profitable?
I think they made claims like that. It wasn't much,
I
though.
could see it being something of like a, total overall. I'm just briefly pulled it up because I'd been in conversation where someone had mentioned them that not being the case, and so I was curious. But okay, this is from November 8th, 2023. Overall, the streaming service lost $512 million that quarter. This is from an article on Wired. Disney swears it could be profitable.
Yeah, I was actually just pulling up.
So I don't even know. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to like.
Oh no, you're fine.
No,
I thought I had heard that Disney Plus was profitable. But I always like to double check. And so...
I think the argument could potentially be made of like Disney as a whole is profitable, and like that's almost how like YouTube with Google of like, okay, maybe YouTube, we don't know, but maybe YouTube's completely just a huge money sink. But
YouTube's profitable.
What?
YouTube's profitable.
I mean,
the story was that
from
for
direct ad sales and premium versus the cost of running it, I think that could, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but from an overall, like, we're Google and we own the only, whatever video streaming platform that people actually give a crap about. There are
two video, user submitted video sites that really have the chance of being profitable, and that's YouTube and it's Pornhub. And so, and with the amount of ads I see on YouTube, I'm betting they're pretty profitable, especially with the number of users that they have. That there was a very long time where YouTube was kind of just a lost leader, that they were flirting with the edge of profitability. I think that ended when a lot of the networks started uploading a lot of their content. So, your Jimmy Kimmels and your Colberts and things like that, and starting to put, late night recaps and NFL and ESPN game recaps and things like that. For the longest time, we would go to ESPN and watch SportsCenter at the end of the day and watch all of the highlights from every game for that day. They don't really do that anymore. They'll talk like one or two big stories, but they don't have highlight shows anymore. What do you do if you want to see a game highlight? You go to YouTube and you watch the 5-minute game breakdown.
Yep.
You watch the quick replays and things like that.
I actually didn't know because I was like, man, maybe that's the case. I don't have cable. I don't or anything.
I
So I
haven't
actually
had
was like,
I haven't had cable since I think 2014. It's been almost 10 years now. And
you had me beat by 3 years.
yeah.
I think.
So yeah, I had a couple of different satellite services and got upset because even though I was supposed to have like lifetime price guarantees, they kept raising it $5 every year. And the third time they did it, I went, no, screw that. I signed up for $90. It's $105 now. I was supposed to have a lifetime price. And they're like, oh, we'll lower it down back to 90. I said, cool. Well, you're going to give me the $200 that I spent in extra charges back? Well, no, because that was, well, sorry, I'm gone then. And then for a while, there were streaming TV services that had come out. And I did subscribe to these for a couple of years past 2014 after I dropped the Dish companies.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because they were $35. And if you're dropping from $100 or $100 plus down to $35 for PlayStation View or gosh, there was another one that I did too. It's like, yeah, okay, that's a pretty reasonable deal. I still get ESPN and Discovery and a couple of the other channels that I like watching. Cool. But then those rose exponentially year over year, and all of a sudden you were back to paying $70 again. It's like, this feels a lot like cable, but with a lot less channels.
Yeah.
So I dropped those and I never looked back. But yeah, ESPN used to run highlights on SportsCenter. You used to be able to watch a 1 hour program. God, I sound like a boomer right now. You used to be able to watch a 1 hour program and get all your sports news in one stop.
Matt Lockization, YouTube is my cable. Yes.
Yeah. YouTube is a primary source of video content for me. It's not...
Same.
It's not the... It is probably the number one source, but there's quite a few others that take up some of that slack. When Star Trek is airing, I spend a couple hours a week on CBS or Peacock or whatever the bloody hell they're calling themselves now. We've also got Disney Plus. My wife watches that a lot. I've got 3 kids. They watch a lot of Disney Plus and a lot of Plex that I'm sure was 100% legally obtained. I subscribe to Motor Trend because it's $3 a month, and I like the heck out of watching Roadkill and Faster with Finnegan and all kinds of the car and automotive shows on there. But yeah, I pay maybe $30, $35 in streaming, but I refuse to pay any more than that.
I wish we were a little bit more in that boat. We I pay for YouTube Premium, which is I held out on that for the longest time, and I regret it because it's been great.
It's so much better, isn't it?
It's so much better, and I think I was going to make a comment earlier. I think YouTube is now like my primary source of like entertainment. I think that's more so the case now that I'm a dad of a like toddler. Just because I think I don't feel guilty if I watch like some YouTube thing that my wife does not give a crap about. But if I watch like a TV show, like usually that was kind of like our thing of like, oh, we'd like watch shows. And like now it's just like, when do we actually have time to like watch shows? So yeah, YouTube has definitely become like, I think my primary, I don't think it was before I was a parent, but now it's like, yep, that's pretty much what I have time to like digest is that. But we still pay for, at one point I was like, man, we're going to do a really good job. We're going to start like pausing all these subscriptions we have because we have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have Max, which used to be HBO Max, and then they changed it to Max and made you download a different app because they couldn't just change the name of the app to Max.
Right.
So yeah, we still pay a lot of money, but well, for a while we did because my wife actually watched a lot of stuff. Now she basically just listens to audiobooks, so maybe we need to start
looking at those and
canceling / pausing some of those.
I hate to get all statistical analysis on it, but find out how much time you spend watching each of these services. And if you have, I don't know what your home router situation looks like, but a lot of, home lab or, style routers, your Unifis and things like that, they'll show you how much time that a client has spent viewing web streaming services from different websites. So you can print out a
Mhm.
report and go, oh, we spent 22 hours watching Netflix. I think that was worth $7. We'll keep that one. Oh, we only spent 2 hours watching Hulu. Is there really something on Hulu we need to watch, or can we kick that one to the curb? That is one area that you can kind of bring some of the home lab analytics in and go like, are we actually getting value about where we're spending money?
Yep. Back to Ubisoft. My bad. I keep
no
derailing
worries.
everything.
Yeah. No. I think the Ubisoft conversation kind of rolled into the subscription conversation because I mean that's really the long and short of it. Is they say get used to corporations going to subscription only, and I hope you don't like owning your games.
Which I don't know. I think it's tricky because my gut reaction in some ways is just to say subscription service, like the subscription model it sucks. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get away from it. But there are multiple instances where I'm like YouTube Premium.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see how it could be in any way viable. Like, there's no way I could pay a perpetual license for that because I'm paying.
Right.
I'd be paying for a license for all of this content that people may or may not. Like, it doesn't make sense. So, well, in that way, it does make sense. Like the model makes sense, and I'm is as expensive as it is, which it took me a long time to like bite the bullet. But I'm like very much happy with that decision to pay that 20. I think we pay for a family plan so that me and my wife and my my personal account and my business account both can have, or all can have. I still think I have a few extra that I haven't used, but it's worth it. So like the subscription model inherently isn't bad in my opinion.
I think the difference, at least the separation that I make in my mind between YouTube Premium and say Netflix or Ubisoft or anything like that is with a lot of those services, unless they're coming out with a new show that you want to watch, unless they're delivering, we do Peacock because they had 4 Star Trek series on the air that were coming out with new episodes, and we watch all of them, and it's like, it gets me 3 to 4 hours of entertainment per week, and the couple of months that they're not coming out with new shows, I'm cool with just keeping that on because maybe I'll want to rewatch the season or something like that in between. If it's something like Netflix and all you're doing is accessing the backlog of entertainment that they have, you're paying for access for maybe having the opportunity to watch Home Alone during the holidays. Like maybe I'll pull that up, but most of the time it's going to sit idle and I'm not getting any new content from them. I'm paying for a backlog of a library. YouTube Premium, on the other hand, or live sports, something like that, if you want to pay for a subscription for that, the content is ever evolving. Yeah. There's always something new. There's always new uploads. There's, I go through my subscription feed. There's 30 videos from people that I subscribe to every single day. That's worth it at the price that I pay for YouTube Premium. Paying for a subscription so you can watch, football or basketball or whatever it is, so you have ESPN or you have whatever streaming package to get live sports. If you spend all day Sunday watching the NFL and you watch 3 games every Sunday or something, or you have it on in the background, it's 12 hours of entertainment per day times 4 days a month, plus Monday Night Football, plus whatever else. I think you've got your money's worth at $9 a month or whatever that's going to cost you, and so I think it's, in my mind, it always equates to that. Am I constantly receiving new things and getting new entertainment, or am I just paying for a backlog of content? The problem with Ubisoft is I think 99% of their business model, outside of, hey, we made another Call of Duty and we made another Far Cry and we made another Prince of Persia. I wasn't going to buy 2 out of 3 of those anyway. Is there really value that they're providing me for a subscription service?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it is interesting because when I think of like video games, I'm like the person that will occasionally play something new. Mm-hmm. Like I'll play StarCraft. I played StarCraft. I think I have like 14 hours in it. there's a really good chance within the next 6 months I'll go back and play Skyrim for another 80 hours or something. Like I'll go back and replay stuff all the time. But with like obviously with like a football game or something, I'm not going to go back and be like, man, I really just want to watch the 2008 Super Bowl. Like, that doesn't. And even with YouTube, I'm like, there's a lot of times I'm like, I'm not going to go back and watch stuff that I watched, but I'm like, maybe it's because I haven't hit that point where I'm like, oh, I want to go back and watch that Craft Computing 4060 review, and then I go back to watch it and it's gone. Right. And I think maybe it's just because I haven't been hit with that yet, versus with games when I'm like, oh, I want to go back and play this, and all of a sudden I don't have that opportunity because it's been pulled from the streaming service or something. So, yeah. I don't know. It is interesting because it's how we consume the content. Because I think I also know people. One of my coworkers that I worked with for a long time, basically he played like 2K and Fortnite. That was pretty much it. And I don't think he ever had the desire to go back and replay an old 2K or what does it matter to him? Like that was video game. That was like gaming to him was like these. And so for him, I mean, it's different because I guess like he's not really paying for a subscription service for those. So I don't know if that's right. But I think for some people it does make sense. But I think for a lot less people, just because of the nature of video games, of like we don't consume with YouTube. It's like I'm consuming a lot of times like multiple videos per day that I'm watching to or listening to, versus a game. It's like, okay, I may play one game for like a month or two. And then I may go back and play it 3 or 4 more times over the next few years. Versus I'm not going to like constantly consume the entire library, which I think is sort of the...
Yeah. Allison chimes in with a question. I can only afford one. Would you prefer I kept your Patreon, talking to me, or keep YouTube Premium? I run my Patreon a little bit differently, and so you're going to get a nuanced response from me. On my Patreon, I charge per creation, but in Patreon, you can set a monthly max for a creator. If you set a monthly max of $1, you will still have access to the Discord server. All you need to give me is $1 per month. You will keep supporting me. That's all I need. And you will keep access to Discord perpetually. So in that case, do both. If you can truly only afford one, I would keep YouTube Premium. I think you, as a user, will get more value out of YouTube Premium than paying me for access to my Discord server. And that's not the response I think most people would expect, that, oh no, pay me. Like, you'll get more value out of me. My content's free. You're paying me to support me. I also want you to have good products, and YouTube Premium is genuinely a good product. I'm not going to make nearly as much money from you, but I'm happy if you're happy. So did I answer the super chat earlier in the stream?
There was a few. I was just about to say that. I was like, man, I think I really messed you up and we didn't hit super chats.
Yeah, I saw one of them come up and I remember reading it, but I don't think I read it out loud because I think we were like right in a couple of different transitions and then I forgot to come back to it. Does anyone... Gosh, I feel terrible now because I usually answer super chats. Normally, if I miss one, someone will alert me in my Discord. No one screenshotted it, and I don't see it, and I can't go back and look at it because, honestly, there's so many of you on here. There's 320 people, and you're all chatting, and that's freaking awesome. Welcome, everyone. It won't let me scroll back far enough because there's been too much chat between now and then.
But super chats just work.
Right. Yeah, Skull says he missed grabbing them as well. Yeah. If you did super chat me, let me know. Put it in there. Yeah, drop it down. Drop it down, and I will answer some questions. Are they in your portal, Jeff? No, they're not at the top. They only, during a live, they only stay for so long. So no, I will not have access to them until after the show goes to VOD.
I feel like I remember seeing them when you were talking. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if someone puts it in here, I'm going to be able to tell if they're like full of it or not. Yeah. You know? I also realized this shirt's like dark enough that like I never noticed there was a stain here until I get in front of a softbox,
I
and
hate
then I
that.
haven't been able to see it, not see it, and I'm just like, God damn it, this stupid stain.
Every time I have a shirt that the stain only shows up on softbox, so I'll go, oh yeah, I like this shirt, and I'll put it on. I'll come downstairs and I'll shoot an entire video, and then there's like a stain right here in the pocket or something. It's like, God.
I do have with the Ubisoft article. There was one phrase that like, or one little quote that I thought was interesting. I don't even know his name anymore. I didn't write it down, but what was it, the director of subscriptions, I think is his title at Ubisoft. One of his quotes was, I still like, basically saying, I understand the perspective of gamers. Like, I still have boxes of DVDs, but as people continue to embrace this model, they'll see that games exist. You'll be able to access them whenever you feel like. And it's like, that's great. Until all of a sudden, you can't, because you decide it's not profitable to still keep those games in your library and pay the licensing for it, which we've seen time and time again with Amazon, with
all the Star Trek movies are now on Netflix instead of Paramount again. Even though Paramount makes the damn movies, they're finding out they're not keeping subscriptions just so people can have access to Star Trek movies. And so they sold the license to Netflix because Netflix has more money than all of their subscribers combined.
Yep. I mean, even like with Nintendo, I believe I don't really keep up with Nintendo stuff very much. But I believe they had like some of their older titles available, and then they just kind of pulled them from some of their online stores, and essentially they're just non-existent anymore. If I remember correctly. Like I said, I don't keep up with Nintendo stuff a ton, but if the content's good, no one will notice the stain on the shirt. Yes, they will. I appreciate it, but
here's the thing about being on camera. If you think you are thick-skinned, you have no idea. If you think you have no flaws, you have no idea. If you have a weakness, they will poke at it. If you have an insecurity, they will find it. It is... I'm not even a woman in the tech space, and the amount of comments about my weight, my hair, my complexion, my grooming of my beard, most of them are complimentary, but some of them are still creepy or insensitive or insecure or disrespectful. And I'm like, I can't even imagine some of the crap that other creators have to go through just to give information on a YouTube, especially like edutainment YouTubers. We're friends with quite a few of them, and some of the vile, despicable things that get sent their way, like, oh my God.
it's ridiculous.
I have a perpetually runny nose. I just do. And so oftentimes I will get on camera and I'll blow my nose and make sure that, my sinuses are clear and I can talk clear and my voice isn't nasally and some things like that. And I've had like a little dribble right there, or like a little thing that gets stuck in my nose hair or something like that. And I don't notice it because it's literally 2 pixels wide on the camera. Someone will find it and they'll point it out. Stop it.
I think I may have mentioned this on a Discord or something at one point, but I did 3 takes of a video one time. The second time, the first time, it was like focus was off, and so I had to go back. The second time, I didn't realize I had like a tiny little booger just like right here. And I even went back after and was like, I can't even really see it.
Yeah.
But someone will see it.
Someone will see it. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, you ever film a video and you realize you have like 3 or 4 hairs sticking up right here? I've done videos before where I've woken up in the morning and I'll like, brush my hair real quick and whatnot, and put on a clean shirt, but I'll come down and my beard is like over here because where I slept funny. And it's like, oh God, son of a... yeah, it's just... I didn't think I had any insecurities. I didn't think people would notice that my glasses sit crooked because my ears are slightly crooked and my left eye has a permanent squint in it. People pointed it out. I had to call it straight out in a couple different videos and go like, stop pointing it. You don't think I'm aware of it? You don't think I spend enough time staring at my face in the mirror and editing my videos that I'm not aware of every single physical abnormality on my face? I'm keenly aware. I don't need them poked at.
Yeah. I've had someone tell me, I guess basically try to like diagnose me and say that I should see like, oh, clearly because of the way that you're phrasing this is because blah blah blah, and you really need to like see a counselor or something. And I was like, man,
You sound like Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. That's not the compliment you think it is.
yeah, people are crazy.
Could we just stop commenting on people's appearance, especially if you don't know them? Like, could we just stop that in general? That'd be fantastic.
Especially
if it's anything other than nice hat or you got a haircut or I like your glasses, shut up.
Yeah. Especially I'll give a hint to people out there.
Mhm.
Especially if you're watching a female creator and you start to like type anything about their appearance or how they make you feel or how anything.
Yeah.
Don't type it.
Don't.
Just stop. Stop right there.
Just don't.
There's some advice. So anyway. Man, I knew I shouldn't have had a 12-point beer.
You're fitting right in here. This is perfect. Yeah. Terminally online people are always armchair analyzing. Veronica chimes in. You look tired. Don't start with me, Veronica. Speaking of subscription services, so this one caught me by surprise. Not really by surprise. I should have been expecting it. But the NFL and Peacock, NBC, came under some fire this last week because they decided to make one of the NFL postseason games a Peacock streaming exclusive. It will not be available on any other service. It will not be available on broadcast television, which most of them typically are. Every NFL playoff game is typically on a broadcast local affiliate, so your local CBS, NBC, ABC, whatever else. So you can watch the game with a set of rabbit ears if you wanted. They decided to put it on to NBC's Peacock streaming service. So give us $10, sign up for the month, and we'll let you watch your game. That was already kind of what we just call a dick move. Yeah. But what was even worse is on the Sunday night game, the Lions versus the Rams, NBC, during their broadcast of that game, took the opportunity to thank everyone who signed in and subscribed to Peacock to make it one of the largest streaming events in world history, and basically pat themselves on the back for about 2 minutes. Now, number one, we as consumers probably should have seen that coming. The only way they're going to stop doing this crap is if we stop paying for it. If we didn't subscribe to Peacock and that was an abysmal failure, you can guarantee it would never happen again.
Yeah.
But you also can't separate a Chiefs fan from their game, apparently, and they're more than happy to pay $10 pay-per-view. Which, guess what? Next year they're just going to be $10 pay-per-view games. Like there'll be Peacock exclusives, but if you want the NFL package, it'll be an extra $7 a month. Or if you want it on YouTube, it'll be like $150 a year. That's what they're going to do. And the only way this stops is the same way NVIDIA stops charging $1,700 for graphics cards. You have to stop buying them. It's the only way that Ubisoft stops doing subscription services. You have to stop paying for them. It's the reason that all we get in games anymore is microtransactions in Grand Theft Auto 5 instead of new AAA content, is because Rockstar made more in shark cards than the entirety of Red Dead Redemption. They made more money in Grand Theft Auto 5 digital items than they did making and selling Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. Which, like, props that they're even making GTA 6, honestly. Like,
I'm surprised we're not getting GTA 5 Season 2.
Yeah, that's honestly, like, I was a little bit shocked when I like when I first heard about some of the like initial leaks of GTA 6, I didn't believe it because I was just like, why? Like, I mean, I don't know. At a certain point, it's probably just going to hurt your brand. But yeah.
Well, Blizzard didn't care. Don't you guys have phones?
It is interesting. I will say, I'm typically like probably kind of a hot take stance on the internet. I'm pretty much I don't really care what other people do. Me personally, I'm typically pretty much against piracy. Just because I make my living from people paying to watch my content at this point, especially.
Totally.
And so that's my personal thing. I don't really care what you do. I did watch that Chiefs Dolphins game, and I have never once signed up for Peacock.
I may have viewed it.
It is interesting. It's interesting to me that it was that successful because part of me just thinks like, okay, people would be able to find places on where to maybe not pay for Peacock and watch it. But if it's successful, it's successful. I mean, if they made money off of it,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, plenty of people pirated that game.
Here is my thought.
They still made money. So
here is my thought when it comes to live broadcast events like this. They used to make all of their money, and if you've looked at how much they charge for commercials during events like this, that they broadcast on the air during the event. If I pirate it, they're not losing any money.
Yeah.
If I stream it from somewhere,
for the most part, in many ways, no. Yeah.
Right. They're not losing that money. They still sold the ad based on viewership, and I guarantee somewhere on a bottom line is the number of YouTube streams that were available of this particular game. And NBC goes, oh, we can't account for regionally where these people are at, but we can tell you they watched. And I guarantee that goes into some ad underwriting in the contract for all these different ad integrations. They're not stupid. But we also used to get this via a set of rabbit ears. And in fact, most of the NFL games are still viewable via a set of rabbit ears from your local TV broadcast stations. It doesn't cost you anything to watch these games. And it really never has outside of like NFL Network or ESPN or, cable lockouts, things like that. As a sports fan, as a diehard sports fan, particularly for the Blazers, Portland Trail Blazers. I have loved the Blazers since I was 5 years old. I grew up watching early 90s Blazers, especially the Bulls Blazers championship runs and the LA Game 7 and all. I've been a fan and I've had my heart ripped out so many times, but I keep coming back for more, and I will always come back for more, even this year, in which I think I have a problem. But I would gladly pay $100 for a broadcast of every game that I could just sign into and watch. Because I live in the state of Oregon, the Blazers are blacked out in my market. I literally cannot pay to see them play, even though they broadcast that game to every other state and every other country on the planet. Because I live in their local market, I have to sign up for cable within my local market and view it on my TV. I can't stream it. I can't pay them to stream it. Which means piracy is an availability issue for me. It's not a cost issue. It's not that I don't want to pay. I'm willing to pay. It's that they don't want to sell it to me. So I said, okay, well, if you're not going to sell it to me anyway, you're not losing any money if I watch it elsewhere. I have no qualms about watching a Blazer game via a streaming site. No issue at all. Because it's not costing anyone a dime.
Yep. It is. First of all, sorry if you're still a Trailblazers fan. I'm sorry about the other night.
Don't. don't. It's bad enough you guys used to be the Sonics. Okay.
Yeah. It was a...
That's bad enough. You're already on thin ice, my friend.
That was brutal. Where was it going?
What's funny is while I was filming the 4070 Super review, my phone chimed off 3 times the final score of that OKC game. It's like... so I actually had a line. I thought I had put it at the end of the video, but I think I deleted it or moved it or something like that, and it ended up getting cut. But it was, yes, I've seen the final score of that game. I don't need to see it. I'm still grieving. Would you stop?
Yeah, that
for those that aren't basketball fans, the Blazers lost by 62 points in the 4th worst loss in NBA history.
It wasn't even like fun as like a Oklahoma City Thunder fan. It wasn't really that fun to watch. It started to get to the point where you're like, okay, these guys are professionals. I know there shouldn't be like a
You were up 40 at halftime.
Yeah, it was just, that was rough.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Yeah. That being said, so I feel like I'm in a weird spot a lot of times because I'm pretty anti-piracy in most ways. Just people in the chat, they kind of mentioned, I think you even sort of mentioned, like, you know, if you're talking about a cable broadcast or what would be like, you know, you could get on your rabbit ears. Yeah, if you're still watching that, you're still watching the ads. Like you're still seeing that. You know, Geico is still getting their money's worth.
Yep.
NBC is still getting their money's worth. But you still are, you know, whatever cable or satellite company is streaming that it's being ripped off from, like they're kind of losing a little bit there.
If I went down to my local bar, I could watch it on the TV there though, free of cost. Like it's not like I'm again.
True, but now you're not going and supporting your local business. So I mean,
I already drank at that bar this week. They're fine.
That is a bit of a weaker, like, I just said I watched the Chiefs game and Peacock has never shown up on my bank statement before. So I'm not, you know, I'm typically, I'm not going to start a subscription service to watch one part of one game just from principle's sake. But
right.
And I do think that like a lot of like Lewis Rossman arguments, for example, don't like, more so from the sake of companies need to realize that this is why people are going to. I don't know if you watched his like Netflix.
I don't think I caught that one.
No. Essentially, like he's paid for Netflix so that he and his girlfriend could like watch something, and then when he tried to watch it from his like home theater PC, he could only stream like 720p because they essentially limit like the bit rate and quality on browsers to whatever
on certain devices, right?
Yeah, and he was like, "Well, like fuck this! Like I'm not gonna." I'm paying you like money for like the premium service, but then you're gonna like force me to use a certain device. He was like, no wonder people pirate. It's not even the money thing. I was willing to pay for it, like you said with cable. I was willing to pay for it, but it's not a money thing. It's I'm getting a better product. So I fully get that sense of it, and I think that's definitely the case when you're talking about like not even the money thing. Like I'm kind of there with like OKC Thunder. If I could pay $100 a year just to be able to watch the games, because that's all I care about. Yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah. The NFL. I've not really bought Sunday Ticket before. I've had friends with it, and I've had login information for being able to watch it. But you know, I've never been a huge like watch every game NFL fan. Outside of a couple specific years. Now, I was born and raised in Oregon. I'm actually a Detroit Lions fan. This year has been great, by the way.
That's a good year for you.
This is a good year.
I have a buddy who's like literally from Michigan, and I'm so happy for him right now. It's a good time.
It's one of those things. It's like, why would an Oregon boy all of a sudden like be a Lions fan? Well, I grew up in the early 90s. Who was one of the hottest players in the 90s? It was freaking watching Barry Sanders every Sunday. Like the game would just be on in my house because they had the 10 a.m. kick, and the game would be on in the house, and I'd be I loved watching Barry. And so in some formative years, I fell in love with Barry Sanders and that style of offense and whatnot. And even back then, they were pretty good. I mean, we won a playoff game in 91, division champs in 93. Like we had some decent teams, and some teams that could have done some things, and they just didn't. Then I'm like, okay, well, Barry retired, 98, whatever. I've never been much of a pro fan. I'm more of a college fan anyway. What happens in 2001? The Lions freaking draft my quarterback in Joey Harrington. All of a sudden, I'm a Lions fan again. Let's freaking go. And he pulls them out of the toilet, and I don't think ever makes the playoffs, but he took them from like a 2-win team to like a 7-win team, like made a measurable difference. Then he goes on to the Falcons and whatnot. I'm like, okay, but I'm still kind of committed to the Lions at this point. Like I kind of like, the kind of the scrappy little bit. Like they've sucked forever, and hopefully they'll turn it around. And what happens in 08? They draft Calvin Johnson and then Matt Stafford in 09. And I knew both those players from college, and a huge college football fan. I'm like, I'm committed. I'm a Lions fan. But all of a sudden this year I want to watch every game because I'm interested in who my team is playing specifically, but also what team is coming up next that I'm playing, and what's their game look like, and how are the opponents that we beat, and how's the one that kicked our ass in Baltimore doing this year? Oh, they've got a pretty legit defense. It wasn't just a fluke that they beat us, 38-7. Like they're doing that to everyone. Like, cool. Like,
yeah.
Suddenly I want an NFL Sunday ticket because my team's doing well.
So back when like streaming services first started, I cut cable. Well, I cut cable. I moved out of my parents' house. I just never paid for cable once I was paying for all of my bills.
Right.
But I like fully had this idea, and I think back in like the early days of streaming services, like the idea was I don't have to pay $100 a month for cable. I just pay for the things I want. And that isn't what we got now. Like, because that's exactly like if I could pay just to watch every Thunder game, and I could pay just to watch, I don't know, I wouldn't even mind like the whole pay-per-view model. But I think, yeah,
I think
that
I
was hoping
excessive.
With streaming services we did not get, and it's just turned into cable 2.0 essentially.
Part of it is, and this kind of winds back up with the Ubisoft thing, is a lot of the streaming companies, or a lot of the companies that are going, you know what, we think our product stands on its own, and people would gladly subscribe to Peacock if they could watch back episodes of Community and The Office and Survivor, or Survivor CBS, but you get my drift. Like, watch our back catalogs of this. Yeah, they're going to watch it once. They're not going to watch it 8 times, which means they're going to watch it until they get bored of it, and then you got their money. But if those people looked around and realized that I can go to the $5 bin at Walmart and get the complete series of The Office for, $15.
That was literally going to be my example.
That's a way better option.
They're only going to watch it once. I was like, well, no, they're going to watch it a bunch.
Right.
But I just went and bought. I really don't have a lot of my Plex library. My Plex library is primarily The Office, Parks and Rec, and a few movies. I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I have the despecialized Star Wars original trilogy.
Gotta have that.
I have a few other things, but like for the most part, it's just the things that I know I'm going to go back and like watch, but I don't want to ever pay for. So I bought it once, and I'm good.
I have some. So I went back. I had a lot of physical media, a lot of DVDs. Always had a ton of DVDs. I went through the years and backed up all of them. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze here. Nope, maybe not. Okay, cool. Backed up all of them, and in fact, at one point in some of my early home lab videos, you can see a server that's on the bottom of my closet. That is a 4U server, but it has 3 optical drives in it. And that's because I had a virtual machine running on that server with was it Magic ISO, or no? There was a Ripper program that I used. So basically, when it sensed an optical disc in the drive, it would automatically just rip it, and it would rip it into a folder. And so I could walk walk into my office, drop 3 discs in that thing, and close it, and then it would rip off a copy and also transcode each of the VOD files that were on there. And so if I wanted a compressed copy, I could copy the 1 gig video file over into my Plex library and call it good. If I wanted an uncompressed VOD, I could also take that whole folder and put it into Plex and then just stream the DVD. It would do that automatically. All I had to do was name the folder and then drop it into where it went.
Yep.
So I backed up like 300 DVDs and Blu-rays. I also might have had Redbox at the time and would pay $1 and go get the latest releases and drop that in the Plex server. Yeah, the vast majority of my Plex library was legitimately obtained.
Yeah.
So. I wish instead of cable 2.0, we simply had more options and better options for consumers, like we had when Netflix was kind of at its prime. Like when everyone just went, oh, we're just going to put everything on Netflix. Kind of like what a lot of sports and talk shows and whatnot have done with YouTube. They've just gone, you know what? Well, it doesn't cost us anything. Let's just drop, the latest Colbert Report or John Oliver take onto YouTube. We'll get 3 million clicks in ad revenue, which is good for a decent amount of money, and certainly pays for the editor that sits there and rips that off and sends it up to YouTube and manages the account. And if they like what they see, they can subscribe and they can watch it on Sundays. Like that seems like a great model to me. But kind of like Broadcom, kind of like Ubisoft, kind of like a lot of different companies, instead of getting only 90% of the profits, they want 100% of the profits. And so we're going to host our own services.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is just what more profits can we make. But yeah, what topic were we on?
I think we were still on Peacock.
Oh, that's right.
I did have one other topic that I really wanted to get to, and I think we'll do that one, and then we'll probably call this a show. It's 8:00.
Man, it's been going.
Yeah. And that is the Formula E. So we talked a little bit about I'm a male in this space, and I get some pretty horrific comments about my weight. The funniest one recently was Jeff, you need to diet. You've gained a little bit of a beer gut over the last year. It's like, I am almost 30 pounds lighter than I was 2 years ago. So no, I have not. But it's neither here nor there. Motorsports. I'm a huge fan of automotive journalism. Your Doug DeMuros and your Vin Wikis, and I subscribe to Motor Trend, so I watch Roadkill and Faster with Finnegan and Hot Rod Garage and all those different shows. Never been too much into like motorsports themselves, as far as like racing, Formula One or drag racing circuits or NHRA or anything like that. But I'm aware. Formula E is the electric Formula One. It's a new league that's formed around Formula One with 100% electric cars. So it's a standardized electric car racing circuit. But there's a narrative with a lot of motorsports that it's not friendly to females. In fact, the statistics are right here. Fewer than 5% of elite level drivers and pilots identify as female, or engineers or racing team members, as only 10 to 20% of the of Formula One crew members, racing teams, engineers, mechanics, whatever, are female. It's not an industry that is friendly to females. Kind of like IT and in general, like this space doesn't tend to be very friendly to females either, which sucks. So what's a Formula E team to do to attract a female audience? Do you do what Hot Rod Garage over on Motor Trend did and you hire Alex Taylor to come over as one of the fastest women in motorsports and be a presenter on your show. And not just a presenter there as a pretty face, but someone who's actually wrenching on the cars and knows more than her co-host does in Lucky Casa. No offense to Lucky, but Alex is a special breed over there. Do you take that route and get in an icon or someone who is representative of females in your sport and hold them up and put them in a position to win over more viewership? No. What if we AI generate a fairly attractive female as a virtual influencer and basically belittle the whole thing? That's probably the better option. Like, we're not going to find a female who's enthusiastic about Formula E, so we'll just make one up. And that's literally what happened. Formula One team, or Formula E team, Mahindra, launched a now bemoaned and now deleted Instagram account called Ava Beyond Reality. Quote, an artificially created female-presenting AI ambassador that was met with such negativity from the team's fan base that the entire program was wiped from existence in less than 48 hours. Good.
Very good.
Who in their right mind greenlit this idea? There's already so many stigmas and negative publicity around even using AI generated artwork in promotional material. Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast was caught not using AI on the cards themselves in promotional material, but putting the cards into an environment that was artificially generated, which they denied and then later admitted to it. And I said, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. No, let's take it a step further, and here's take this very obviously artificial, you can tell from the hair, and kind of the flat muted appear. It's either heavily airbrushed or heavily AI. This one, to my eye, is very obviously AI. Basically, they took a stereotypically attractive woman and posted a bunch of selfies and said, like, can't wait to go root on our team at the next match, yo.
It's terrible.
I don't even know.
It's just terrible.
I don't even know.
There's multiple levels to this, I feel like. The first is just kind of the like blatant, I almost said sexism, but like just
sexism, I think, is the start of this conversation.
Yeah, but just the like, oh man, what can we do to bring more women into this industry? Could we hire someone? Could we try to, or we could make a fake, sexy AI that's gonna.
Well, we're not going to be able to mold a young, sexy woman into our ideal presenter, so we'll just make one up instead.
Isn't it nice? Just God. Also, just there's a part of me that's like, do they actually think people want this? Like, this is what people want? But then, I don't know. There's a really dark side of me that's like, oh, maybe in the long run, maybe this is just ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the sad reality that eventually people just will want. Who cares about humans and humanity? Let's just have, AI influencers that look pretty and do the things I want. It's sad on so many levels.
This is just I'd say new low, but I feel it's the first of many lows for technology like this. I mean, there's already, like I said, so much stigma around the use of AI generated content. And to be fair, I think my stance has been pretty clear that I think AI is going to be a vital tool moving forward for artists, creators, musicians, etc. But it should not be a means to replace them. If 10 to 20% of top Formula One series team members are female, and 5% of pilots are female, and not only that, I'm sure a number of journalists that cover the sport are female, you couldn't find one of them that wanted to talk about it on camera or have a sponsored Instagram to advertise. Like, I mean, for bloody sakes, that's what I do. That's what pays for half of my videos, is companies sponsoring me to talk about things. Now, I typically only sell 60-second ads, and I disclose that it's a sponsorship as per FCC rules and whatnot, and I disclose every sponsorship that I have. Some people have even said too much. We don't need to know that you received the product. Just go ahead and review it, okay? No, I do need to disclose that someone sent me this. But you couldn't find one person that you thought was capable of talking about your sport? Not one?
I mean, I think there's almost a sense of laziness to it, but I almost also think there's a sense of, why have... Because this isn't the first AI influencer.
Right.
I think there's a sense of like laziness, like why bring actual women into this when we can just make one? But I think there's also a sense of, well, why have someone who could say no to something?
Right.
Why have someone that has to, when we can just, their opinions can be our opinions. Like, I think there's an element to that. With just hearing about some of the, being someone, as
well,
you said,
women, we'd never to be able to control what came out of their mouths. So let's just go. To be clear, I was being facetious. That is not my opinion. I started to say
something, and then I was like, I don't know if I can be. I don't know where the filter has to like be for people to know I'm being sarcastic, and then I was just like, oh gosh.
To be clear, I was being very facetious there. Okay.
Yes. But I think, as someone who like tries really hard to be very transparent with, disclosures of sponsorships and the information that I'm passing on, where that information is coming from, whose opinions are those, whose thoughts are those. If you just have something that's AI that doesn't have any need to disclose that, and you just have full control, like I can see my first take on this was more of just the like lazy sexist, like, okay, why try to incorporate women into this when we can just make a pretty one that does, does it for free. But I wonder how much of it's really just how much control we can have over what this is that, And
I think those are both very valid takes. Yeah. I missed a litany of super chats. I apologize.
Yes. I at least screen capped one of them in case you missed it.
Alice sends over $5.
Okay, cool. You got that.
I have that one. Keep circulating the tapes, as old episodes of MST3K used to say. Tech Geek did get back to me on Discord and said he sent over $5. So thank you, Tech Geek. Jealous of your 50s. We were talking about the weather, of your 50-degree temps tomorrow. Just got done with 10 inches of snow, followed by 3 days of sub-zero temps. Finally made it up to 11 today. Yeah, we were supposed to thaw out. It was supposed to be 50 today. It made it to around 40. It was supposed to keep climbing, but then it started dropping again. And I guess Portland was supposed to thaw out along with us. Portland was supposed to get up to like 45. I guess they hit 32 and then started dropping again. So they never even thawed out a little bit. And then there's another storm coming in that could bring more freezing rain tomorrow. So all of us here in Oregon are very much hopeful that that passes over. We got really lucky with this particular storm. The trees, for the most part, kind of sloughed off the freezing rain. It was warm enough that it didn't freeze until it hit the ground. And so we didn't have a lot of the downed trees and power line issues that we had a couple of years ago. I think 2021, we had a really gnarly storm that took out power for like 7 days for a lot of this area. We didn't get hit quite that hard, although the storm had that potential. If it keeps going and it doesn't thaw out, and this time the air above us is cold enough to actually freeze when it makes contact, that's going to be a problem. So Hopefully not. I am so done with the freezing rain. If I missed another super chat, I know I did some. I apologize. But I think we had some pretty good conversations tonight. That was a lot of fun. Thank you, Veronica, for hanging out in chat all night. And in fact, Gearling is now hanging out in chat. He's over in your time zone. He should be asleep by now.
Yeah, I don't know how he's still awake. I don't know how I'm still awake.
Yeah, Gearling, what are you doing awake, man? Other Jeff needs to go to bed.
I have a good time, like in comments or whatever, like on my channel, kind of just flip flopping on who's other Jeff, like who's Jeff and who's other Jeff. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. I need to get Gearling on this show one of these days. Maybe we can settle it there. So he's one of the only ones over in our private Discord that I don't think I've had on the show. So
have I told you that not just once but multiple times now have I received emails from whatever, whether it's someone for like a sponsorship, whatever, multiple times, not just once, multiple times I've gotten emails that say, Jeff, we love your channel, like whatever. They just call me Jeff, and I'm like, okay, either this was a copy paste from one of the other two Jeffs, or they just assume every tech channel if they don't know their name. And it's like, I might as well just throw Jeff in there. That's probably it.
I don't think I've told Gearling this, but I got his calendar from System 76. System 76 sent out some desk calendars, and they emailed me and they asked if I wanted one. And I've worked with them before. I reviewed their Thelio case earlier this year. I've had some correspondence with them on Pop OS. And their team reached out and said, "Hey, can we send you one of our calendars?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I love having desk calendars around." They said, "Cool, we'll get it to you." The box arrived and it said Jeff Gearling on it. Son of a. I know he's received some of my stuff before too, so it happens.
Allison says, "Get Victoria on the show." I believe she was.
Yeah,
I would be more than happy to see her back again.
Veronica, yeah, no, I've had Veronica up on the show.
Oh, my bad. I totally misread that. I'm really bad with names. Sorry, that's Veronica.
Right. Or no. Allison said Victoria. Did you mean Victoria or Veronica?
I'm wondering if that's someone else, and I just like had Veronica in my brain and was like, yeah,
no, because the V in tech that I know is Veronica. So
that's as far as my brain can go.
No, I had Veronica on the show a little while ago. So
yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I've had Radal on the show. I don't think Techno Tim's been on my show, but I've been on his podcast.
Nice.
I need to
all
get
the
Wendell
Techno
too.
Tim I've watched.
Yeah.
I don't think I've watched one of his podcasts. I need to.
Yeah.
I really need to.
Victoria explains.
Dang it! I'm so sorry, Veronica. I really, oh my gosh, I'm really bad with names.
Allison said it's 4 a.m. here. Forgive the typo. Yeah, no, you're good.
Hey,
you're good. I know who you meant.
Apparently, I know who you meant too. I just went right along with it. So.
Yep.
All hail Victoria.
Yeah, it's the other Victoria, right?
I feel like now I'm just going to always call Veronica Victoria.
Yep.
I feel like I have to.
I've had Radal on here. I've had Chris Titus Tech on here. Yep. I've had Crosstalk Solutions, Chris on here. So, yeah. No, I've had a bunch of fun people on here. No, Gearling's been on my list for a while. I've had Tom Lawrence on a couple of times from Lawrence Systems. And Wendell's been on my list too. I need to corner him down and make him get on a Zoom call. So, because that could be fun.
That'd be a fun one.
Yeah. One of the funny anecdotes I have, I think we'll close with this, is I've had Wendell in conversations on my channel before, and I've said, yeah, I reached out to Wendell and we talked about this, and here's the solution we came up with. And the comment you always receive is, yes, Wendell, the YouTuber that other tech tubers call when they need tech support. What's really funny is Wendell tends to pick my brain when it comes to the VDI thing, because I've dived in with both feet on that one, and so we've talked about a number of times trying to collaborate on some VDI stuff, and maybe that'll have to happen this year, especially with like the amount of power we're getting out of these new GPUs. Maybe we'll have to finally figure that out.
That'll be sweet.
Yeah.
I do have one little shameless plug here. Speaking of Wendell, I finally had my YouTube, like I called Wendell and he solved my problem for me, or he explained it for me. I finally had that moment for the Hardware Haven channel, and that video should be coming out a week from Friday. So
yeah.
Once your video posts,
by the way, go subscribe to Hardware Haven, Colten over at Hardware Haven, if you haven't done so already. His link is down in the video description. Go click that. Go subscribe. He does some fantastic content. He caught something in a product that I recently reviewed that I gave kind of a quasi recommendation to. I won't say I gave a full endorsement to, but he caught kind of a deal breaker. And that's what we're talking about in the video. Yeah, potential deal breaker, depending on your use case. God, there were... Did you screenshot our chat? Because there were like 5 or 6 of us in that chat.
Yeah. There will definitely be a point in that video where like I'm still trying to like piece it together, but something about like like the bat signal, but like the nerd signal, and then like everyone. But yeah, we had like 6 people. It was like Wendell, you.
You got to do the old
Ian
60s.
Cuttress.
You got to do the old 60s Batman transition, but with the level 1 text logo.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I was like, I've been trying to like find something. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You get the spiral graphic with the logo fading in and out.
Now I got to figure out how to do that in Resolve, but
I'll see if I can knock one up for you. I'm pretty good at quick little animations like that. So let me see what I can do.
Shoot it my way, but yeah, I think that'll be interesting. So
yeah.
But
that video you said coming out about a week from Friday. I will likely this is a big enough deal. I will likely publish a follow-up on this review, and I don't often revisit reviews. This one, I think, depending on your use case, merits a second glance. So go subscribe. His video is going to drop first. I'll kind of echo the sentiment once it comes out. So
yeah, we'll see.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining. This was fun.
This has been a blast. There's 2 shows I try to always catch every week, and it's this one and usually the Wade Show. But
yeah,
so it's cool that this has probably been one of the 2 longest shows I've like continually watched every week. Thank you. Now I get to be on it, so it's awesome. It's awesome.
I got to meet one of my heroes today. So I was on PC World's The Full Nerd podcast earlier today. It's my second appearance on the show. So Adam reached out yesterday because they wanted to talk about the 4070 Super, and he goes, "Oh, I saw you published a review. Do you want to come on and talk about your review?" And I said, "I'd be happy to." He goes, "Cool. We're gonna have Will Smith on the show too." And what? I nerded out. I went full fangirl mode for a couple minutes. So for those who don't know Will Smith is a legend in the tech space. Former Maximum PC technical editor. So like an OG hardware reviewer. I think he started with Maximum PC in either 99 or 2000. And he worked there for like 14 years or something like that. Right around 2010, on my YouTube feed, of all things, back in 2010, this video showed up in my feed of a guy you might know named Adam Savage, and he was announcing that the Mythbusters were merging with Tested.com, which was Will Smith and Norman Chan, another Maximum PC editor and reviewer, were joining forces to create Tested, which was a website of makers and props and film and theater and things like that, but also like virtual reality and 3D printers and all kinds of fun stuff. He headed up that project as well. And I got to be on a podcast with him today. It was so much fun.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. I'm really glad that I actually knew, because I had an experience back in the past at some point where I was like, Will Smith, that's crazy. And then I was like, oh, okay, different Will Smith. And so I was like, I'm just glad I actually knew what he was talking about, and I wasn't just like,
Kind of like, it's really funny because kind of like Jay's 2 cents gets mistaken all the time for Jay-Z because they'll try to add him on Twitter and it'll just autocomplete Jay's 2 cents. Will Smith owns at Will Smith and willsmith.com and willsmith.tech. And so any instance of Will Smith, the actor, getting in the news, say if you go on stage at the Emmys and slap Chris Rock across the face,
just gets blown up.
His Twitter lights up.
That's funny, but it probably sucks at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, he's got his couple moments of like, I don't want to turn on my phone today.
Yeah,
but
that's rough.
But yeah, I got to hang out with Will Smith today, and Adam Patrick
cool.
Murray's always fun to hang out with. So
sweet,
yeah.
I'll have to make sure and check that out.
Yes. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I know this episode went a little bit long.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So did the Full Nerd Podcast. I've been on podcast for 5 hours today.
Dang.
So, but this was so much fun. Again, thank you, Colten, for joining on such late notice. It was a lot of fun. Definitely have to have you back on the show. This was a great time. Subscribe, like, go check out Hardware Haven's channel. Link is in the description. Craftcomputing.store. Get yourself a pint glass, coffee mug. We have all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah, great. What do you think of the glass? Oh, you got the coaster too?
Yeah, it's great. I will say I've received a few free things from Jeff. This is my desk bottle opener / it's also perfect for getting what are these called for cameras, the little like tripod.
Oh yeah, the plates.
Yeah, it's perfect for getting those off. But I did buy a coaster set and a drink. This is not sponsored. No, it's great. The design is awesome. The little spiral thing at the bottom that like aerates it or whatever it is, it like genuinely makes drinking beer better.
Yes.
Like I'm kind of sad if this glass is like in the dishwasher and I'm like, oh crap. Like
I wanted to try this beer. No, I can't because my glass is dirty.
Yeah, like I'll just end up cleaning it out. So I need to get. I think I'm gonna. Does the new one have the thing at the bottom?
Yes, yeah. The new pint has nucleation at the bottom. The new one is actually my logo. I don't know if you can see that because it's a little wet.
Definitely can't, but yeah. I can imagine it.
Yeah. So yeah, the new pint glass with the Matrix theme, I didn't want just the spiral at the bottom, so I actually put my logo on the bottom of it. But yeah, same effect, same nucleation effect. But it helps aerate your beer, keep your head fresh, get those aromatics rolling, improve your drinking experience. That was the whole idea behind it. So.
Yeah, it's actually like I don't have any other nucleated glasses. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, nucleated glasses.
Yeah, I don't have any others to compare it to. But yeah, it's great. It's been I didn't know what I was missing out on until I got one. So
excellent.
And they're not like super. Like all of my merch is really expensive because it's all like print on demand and stuff. So they're actually like everything's like priced really well. So
cool. So I'll slip $20 for the endorsement.
Yeah, I'll send you the invoice.
All
also,
right.
If it looked like I was staring at you weird for a second, it's because some tech geek joked blink twice if you're being forced to say this. So I was kind of and then I just realized I was staring like directly into like the camera, and I was like, it probably looked weird. So
awesome. Yeah, 2 lip glasses soon. Yeah, I'm constantly working on new merch. Part of that is sourcing and then designing, and then is it repeatable? Is my sourcing repeatable? How good quality is the merch that I'm procuring? And it's a whole deal. I didn't want to be a logistics company, but all of a sudden I'm a logistics company. But it's been fun. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, everyone. My end button go. My YouTube studio is missing the end button. I can't hit end stream. What the crap? All right, we'll just